today's video, I'm going to show you how I went from this font to this polished logo for my new note-taking plugin using just a few simple tricks anyone can use to improve their design skills. I ended up landing on a name pretty quickly, which was a huge relief because naming things is usually the hardest part. It's simple, it hints at what the product does, and the exclamation point at the end gives it just that right bit of character. I knew I wanted a straightforward text-based logo, as creating a logo mark for a project like this felt a little bit unnecessary. And actually, having a short name like this makes it a great candidate for a word mark, and the exclamation point at the end gives me an opportunity to create some kind of design motif. So I went off to Google Fonts, which I was more inclined to use so I wouldn't have to deal with any licensing issues. Something like a serif font doesn't really fit with the playfulness of the name, nor does it really make sense with what the product does, so I filtered my choices down to things in the handwritten category, assuming I could find something that would make more sense with the idea of writing notes. From there, I narrowed it down to Londrina and Caveat Brush, both of which had a nice handmade feel. Typing them both out in Figma, I saw more potential in Caveat because it had a little bit more character and style, which I knew I would need if the logo was essentially just going to be the characters typed out. In Figma, I could see that Caveat's irregular kerning and uneven baseline gave it that hand-drawn look, but it felt a little bit unbalanced in such a short name. As I started playing with the kerning, manipulating the placement of each letter individually, I noticed that the O fit nicely under the crossbar of the T. So I decided to shrink the size of the E and tuck it under the other side of the T for symmetry. After getting the letters adjusted just the way I wanted, the only thing that wasn't working was the exclamation point. I knew it was something I wanted to use as a motif, and I loved the way the curves of the D and the exclamation point fit together, but the dot on the exclamation point was clashing with the bottom of the D. There wasn't much I could do about the form of those letters, so I decided to try to fix this issue using color. Over the summer, the family and I watched a ton of the WNBA, and the color scheme of the champion New York Liberty was something I had been itching to use on a project. By turning the exclamation point to this minty, seafoam, greenish, bluish, not quite tealish color, I was able to draw some separation between the dot of the exclamation and the D. Now, if you compare where I started with just a plain font to what I ended up with, there is a pretty drastic difference. Hopefully these little tips give you a few ideas on how you can really improve your designs with just a few simple tweaks. However, if you're not the design type or you just simply don't have time for it, I would love to introduce you to today's video sponsor, Dear Designer. With Dear Designer, you can have your own design team that's reliable and always available. You get a hand-picked and ego-free team to do all your design work just as if they were part of your team. No more wasting time with unreliable freelancers, and no more websites that look like they were designed by a developer. You can use the link down in the description to see examples and view their up-to-date pricing. If you learned something in today's video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, and if you want to make sure to catch the next one, hit subscribe and we'll see you next week.